Okay. Hi there, Shanoya. How you doing?
I'm good, thank you. How you doing?
I'm all right, all right. So this is our one of our videos for information morning. And would you just like to say sort of your name, pronouns, and what your peer repping in?
Oh, sure. Yep. So my name is Shanoya. I use she, her pronouns, and I am a peer rep for the membership team, and I'm also a part of a voluntary role with Project Zazzy. So yeah, I've been doing it for like almost a year, like 9 months now. It's like, oh my gosh, it's almost come to an end. Yeah.
Yeah, places comes ahead. How did you find out about placement?
So Sahala and Tidra, that's how I found out about placement initially. Sahala was and Tidra did it was like I couldn't figure out what I wanted to do. So placement was a result of me trying to figure out what I wanted. And then I'm friends with Sahala, so Sahala was the one that got me introduced into Off the Record. I heard about it, and I was like, oh my gosh, there's placements here. So I just signed up on a whim. Did not think I would actually get it, and even in my interview, I was like, okay, I do not think I actually got this. And then I got it, I was like, oh my gosh, like I actually got this. And then the rest is history. So
Yeah. Brilliant.
literally.
And just in case there will be right up on the website, but just in case you haven't quite read it, I'm Laura. I'm the engagement and participation team manager of the record, and I support the peer rep program, which is the aim is having people on placement reach out to communities that we don't necessarily reach out well to, and using our people on placement to find creative and new ways of reaching out to harder to reach communities. So what we're going to do now is we're going to present a PowerPoint, and then you're going to use that to walk us through your placement and what you've been up to.
Sure, yeah. Um, our first slide is basically what I just
Well,
read, going to read to.
Shanoya,
Oh,
bear with me a second. Let me present first.
yeah, sorry.
Uh,
Mhm. Hi guys.
so has the PowerPoint come up your end?
That's fine. I can see it.
Okay, so uh, the first slide, professional information morning, and then the next slide is what is a peer rep. So Shanoya, how would you sum up what a peer rep is?
Okay, so from my role, so basically as a peer rep, it's an opportunity for us to at least become a member of staff for a period of time, as well as also equally a volunteer for at least 3 days a week, and support the engagement workers and the engagement team in either their pop-ups, their weekly drop-ins, which is our hubs that we run. So it's opportunity for us to engage with other young people as well and get that holistic approach in supporting and not only support them and just promoting empowerment, promoting mental health and well-being. That's part of the role. And then we also get an opportunity to discuss and to create an action plan with our potential outcomes to Laura as well of what we want to do out of our placement and how we could benefit from it. So there's opportunity for us to learn and go forward for our professional career, as well as an opportunity to engage with other off the record projects in empowering and in promoting positive mental health and well-being in OTR. Um, so as I said, you get to work with other closed groups. So my interest is Project Zaddy, and then the rest of other peer reps have their own interests, and then we get to network with other organizations and form new connections relative to OTR's ethos and implement your goals from there and see how it fits in with OTR and how your viewpoints can fit in as well.
Yeah.
So project, this is our next, I just briefly mentioned Project Zazzy. So Zazzy means know yourself, know your strength. And this was established in 2015 through Nalari, in partner Nalari. And the whole premise of Zazi is as BAME representation, especially in older adults, is overrepresented, we're trying to make sure young people can access it early on before later life. So the whole premise of Zazi is support community events like St. Paul's Carnival or It Takes a Village, as well as response to community issues, Brazil's resilience and mental health in communities and schools, such as like colleges, sixth forms, youth centres, and faith settings. That's what Project Zazi is about.
So, can I pause you there? So you are a peer representative, and you are in the membership team, but you bridge over to the SASI team.
Yes.
And the idea of this was to help build communication between the different OTR teams as well. But why did you choose to be a peer representative in BME Young People?
I felt like as a BAME young person in society, especially even though I'm not born in Bristol and I'm from London originally in Essex, yeah, how I feel like is represented in Southeast and Southwest could be slightly different in certain ways. I think there's more over there, but also I feel like it's important for our voices to be heard and empowered, where historically institutions were not actually invoke and empower and actually implement these changes. And I wanted to see how and why these institutions continue to fail, and why how OTR is a voice and that allows people to actually like allows or may allow young people to actually have that voice and speak their truth. And I feel like Project Zazi, as well as me being a placement, it provides me the opportunity to explore that.
Yeah.
That's really what I think is cool.
And I think there's loads, I don't know if you agree, but there's a huge sort of amount of barriers for BME young people to access mental health services, from
Oh, okay.
language barriers to just culturally. Yeah, so I feel like that actually there's a whole lot of struggles and things in the way for young people to access services from BME community groups.
100% agreed. I think I like the fact that from being on this placement, the record has given me the opportunity to explore. I want to actually have the opportunity to break down those barriers, and it's also promoting that change for other institutions to do so. So I think it's great that they have something like this to actually promote change with other mental health services or services in general to support BAME young people.
Nice.
So yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
So next slide. It says SAS's aims.
I think I briefly mentioned that in my previous slide in Project Zazi, but in more in detail is again, it's to attempt to build resilience across ethnic minority communities. And also, I think what I like about what being on this placement is that the fact that we have a whole team that is all BAME or BAME origin, and that representation is needed, I guess, especially in mental health services, because there isn't that much there in the mental health sector, or the healthcare industry in general is massively underrepresented. And I think OTR obviously has increased or has that already. And I think Zazi in general wants to increase the specialist BAME support within other services as well. So I think that's great. But that's what we're all about as Zazi. We're trying to bring that awareness and bring that importance for other professionals to know that this is needed within mental health services.
And we do also, even the next round of peer reps that I'm recruiting to, I am struggling to increase the sort of the culture backgrounds of people into that group. And have had a lot of white females apply again for peer representatives. So for anybody that's struggling to recruit a diverse team, do you have any like tip or anything that we could think about just to help us with that? Yeah, just trying to recruit more diversity into a team.
Oh, that's a good question.
Should
I
we,
think,
sorry, go on.
oh, no, sorry, I was going to say something. Sorry.
I
Um,
was, I was going to say, do you need to think about that question? We come back to it, or
Let me think about it in a couple of minutes and then I can get back to you on that. Is that okay?
yeah,
Yeah.
perfect. So next thing is women's talk. Now, this you've had quite a heavy involvement in the women's talk that Sassy runs.
I have. So, as I started and with my plan, my action goal, so what I want to specialize in specifically is young female, young women, especially, because historically and from growing up, our voices were not really heard, and that's what I really wanted to focus on. It made me really think about it. And as I started, they were thinking about doing something like this. I was thinking about doing something like this, so partnering up with Tanya to see how we can jumpstart this idea. And I guess it went into action. It's a trial program that actually went into action, and it actually has been working. So woman talk or chatbot is like a cultural slang terminology for saying like for real or no way, as well down of factual information on what they heard, especially in Caribbean. So my mum and my dad says it, or like way back when my nan used to say it. I'm just looking at her like, Nan, what are you saying? But that is basically just addressing cultural, like being cultural sensitive to their needs, I guess. But it's basically presenting factual information. So there's an 8 to 12 week program that allows BAME young women to explore the current daily issues that they face in societal constructs and build resilient toolkits, really. And it's creating that link between OTR as well, and how it could be useful in promoting positive, again, mental health and well-being in young people. And I think it's important for us to have that, especially this women talk, to involve important educational institutions where, again, it was not historically a safe haven for young people to have that sort of conversation and thrive in that environment, because they were oppressed or not feel like they could be able to have that conversation. And that's what that's what I did.
Yeah, and there's been some real successes, hasn't there? There was a time that you went into a school and talked to young people about bereavement, because there was sort of a gang sort of knife attack that happened, and the SNASI team went in and talked to the women, was it, around that, and there were some really magical things that happened.
Yeah, so unfortunately I wasn't there for that, but I remember I was invited to go to St. Brendan's. That's one of the schools I go to, sixth form colleges I go to have a women talk. And we Tanya and Lewis and Des, which is one of the WP's social action projects for Zazie leader, and Tanya's a women development officer, they went in to St. Brendan's on the thing of bereavement. And I remember that one of the people that we were in contact with, her name's Laura as well, who was trying to get these young girls and that to be interested in it. And once we said that we're doing this workshop, a lot of people, so it was open to everyone, being young men and women were welcome to come. And it was a big number, big massive amount, at least like 20 people came forward. And what we found with that is that unless it's something relative or want that support during that time, they will come to get and access that support, which was really good to see, I guess. And I guess it was useful to find that I think they needed that.
Yeah,
So
and I think that what you just touched on there is really important. It's about tapping into what is actually relevant to them right there and then. It's no good offering a service that they can't, like, people can't relate to. You need to really understand what are the culture barriers, what are the issues, what's actually young people facing in that community, and then tailor your service to fit that need.
yeah, 100% agreed. I think having that sort of thing where it is culturally, as you said, culturally sensitive, and making sure it's open to them, it makes it easier for them to access, I guess. And I guess they felt like it's a safe haven for them to actually go and reach out for that support.
Yeah. Nice. Let's move on to the next slide. I'm conscious of time. So 3 things you want professionals to know.
Cultural competency, that's the biggest thing. I keep saying it. I've been saying it since the beginning of placement. I've just started my action plan. It's important, guys. I'm sorry, but like I'm so passionate about that cultural competency. I'm gonna touch on that briefly. BAME people rights and voices, and the importance of representation, institutions, and educational healthcare industries and civil services, like examples. But the main one I really want to know is cultural competency. And that's something I found being in placement, that people are not 100% or spatially aware of that. And I think it's important that in institutions such as this, especially the healthcare industry, that we are culturally aware of people's other needs and how we can make sure it be comfortable for people such as like myself to access your service.
Yeah.
That's what I want to
The next couple of slides talks about culture competencies, doesn't it? Should we move on to
know.
those?
Yeah, it talks about cultural competency and some certain terms to know relative to that. So yeah.
Okay, so terms to learn.
Colorism and racism is very similar, but there's like a fine line difference. I'm going to briefly touch on it. So, colorism is based as discrimination based on your own ethnicity and race demographic. So, myself, and racist toward and like discriminatory against that. So there's like a hierarchy of like skin tone type of thing. So because I'm one of the darker shades, people may discriminate me because I'm darker versus maybe a light skinned version of myself, a black person. It's a huge thing in ethnic minority communities that we should watch out for. And racism is basically privilege and power over people who are not a person of color or that demographic. And that's what racism is. So oppressing other races. And then colonialism is basically having power or authority over something that is not theirs, basically. It's just a brief summary of what those terms are.
Nice.
And then I'm going to go on to what cultural competency is in a sec. So, what basically cultural competency, and this is just like a brief summary, it's basically being culturally sensitive and being more aware of people's needs, and making sure that these behaviors and attitudes over your own self is more being and reflecting on your own self instead of passing it on onto other people's needs. So being more accepting and trying to be understanding of those needs instead of being more self-centered and be on yourself, versus what your own culture is. So, for example, if I were to explain, like, from my family, and I don't feel like it's a safe place for me to come to the NHS or CAMS to go and speak about, I don't know, what my anxiety related or social anxiety when meeting my family members. Somebody could reply that saying that, well, it should be okay for you to come and confront me and blah 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 because this is a safe space. But they are trying to say to them that culturally this is not safe for me. So I don't understand how I can reach out in code, if that makes sense. And having basically before you would ask and think about asking those questions, you need to internally reflect on like, okay, why does this person feel this way in addressing me, or why and accessing this service? Why would how would I interact, or what questions could I ask first before being insensitive to their needs? And that's what cultural competency would basically means, is basically being more aware, having how would you react, what attitude would you have in maybe speaking to a person that may not understand, maybe have like a language barrier, and their age, gender, basically just making sure you're being comfortable and being aware of when speaking to somebody that may not know. Basically, that's what.
Yeah, and I guess I'm thinking from my own practice, just trying to think of some of the like some of the things, um, some examples of culture competencies that I'm trying to bring myself up on is things like the language I use. So when I'm talking about mental health or mental well-being, actually my understanding of what that is could be very different to somebody from maybe a different background. And I remember having a conversation with a student from Hong Kong who was talking about when I talk about mental health, I'm talking about thoughts and feelings, but the way that they understand mental health is about spiritual, it's about being in touch with sort of your world around you and your belief system. So we was coming from a slightly different understanding of what was meaning by being mentally healthy. And so we had a quite a big conversation about that, and I guess that's what culture competency is about looking at some of those things around language and our understanding, and how I believe my understanding of mental health is very different from somebody, let's say, that person that came from Hong Kong and their understanding of mental health. Is that a correct understanding of what you're trying to
Well,
say?
that's what cultural competency is. Yes, that's the correct understanding. Yes, for sure. And
Brilliant.
then the next slide is basically like a table addressing that, or what continuum of it. So as I said, it's a key principle in helping us understand how life experience and personal industry shape our racial, gendered, and cultural ethnic identity. So these are two models. I know it's pretty small, but basically these two models are basically is a continuum of how we get to this point. So it asks questions such as, oh, sorry, me-centered analysis, other-centered analysis, knowledge analysis, security analysis, and competence analysis. So it's basically being aware, your knowledge, um, sensitivity, sorry, and then competence. So it's basically a step-by-step model of how to get to be cultural competent towards the
Yeah.
end.
And
Um,
there's a lot in this, isn't there? This is, I could imagine some people listening to us and just going, what is this about? Like, what is this? This is another table, more theory about this subject. But I'm guessing what we want to do is put people's interest and say, actually, it's okay not to be an expert in this. But what actually is important is that you reach out and you encourage yourself to professionally grow and find more information out. So if somebody wants to know more about this, is please reach out to SASI as the team, because they're absolutely excellent and they do have many conversations with a whole range of organisations around this subject. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, for sure. So just feel free to email me and I can explain further, and or just email any of the SASI team members in general, and we can ask all your questions regarding things related to cultural competency. Our therapist, Nikki, she's the best at explaining things related to cultural competency, especially as she's a dance and movement therapist as well. And Tanya, she's mind blowing, mind blowing.
Super
Yeah,
amazing.
so just
You've got
feel free.
amazing kids, they do.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Let's move on. So, okay. So, what have you learnt from your placement in the last 6 months? Well, you've been at placement a bit longer. It's been about 9 months, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's
But
been 9 months now, yeah. But I don't want to put too much information and write all these like notes of what I've learned. It's too long, and you won't get in this webinar. But there's so much I have learned. There's so many highlights and good memories. There's been ups and downs with placement, and I think what I've learned a lot is just empowerment of your own people. I guess like that's something I've definitely learned. Confidence. Um, and like I just like the fact like the support and like cohesiveness of in placement. I learned how to reach out to people when I need the help, where I couldn't. It wasn't really much of like a problem before, but like in placement in general, I like the fact that me knowing how to reach out is also taught other young people knowing how learn how to reach out as well. Like it's just I don't know, it was weird. It's like I was watching myself through young people sometimes and reaching out. It was a weird thing. It's like I don't know how to describe it. It's like me watching myself. I don't know how to describe how you would watch yourself, but that's like something I definitely learned. Sometimes I was watching like how I am as a person, like internally reflect through them, and I'm like, wow, like this is a
yeah.
wake up for me. That's something I definitely learned um, as well. I learned the essence of being humorous and like having fun in learning new things. I guess that's something I've learned. And then if you're something relative or relatable to like maybe in particular to a membership team, um, is public speaking and engaging with other professionals that is important to be aware of. And then if it's something related to Zazie in particular, I've more like cultural understanding and history. That's something I've definitely learned because I didn't really know much of history. I knew a bit, but I know a bit more being cultural sensitive in history to surrounding BAME culture specifically. That's something I've definitely learned. And also being professional and writing emails. Like never in my life I've written so many emails in my entire life.
Yeah, I was going to say I'm going to write more about this, but this is real essence of participation here. Is that you're coming in as a very new professional that maybe had very little or limited experience, and we give you a sense of, okay, you're a peer rep. Here's the training. What do you want to do? How are you going to break down barriers to engaging communities? And we leave it very broad and support and empower you to take on some ownership, which has its pros and cons. I mean, there was a lot of work in full from my end, but also a lot of work from your end. And I want to write a little bit more about that, but what I really want us to celebrate is actually how far you have come, how far I have come as a manager in the last sort of 9 months working with the peer reps, and how far OTR generally has come. There's so much we all learned from working together.
Yeah,
Um,
for
and
sure.
one of the things that I'm really proud of you is you have this drive and this energy, and you don't let that give up. You take it with you, which is a real thing to celebrate. And one of the things I've enjoyed is over your placement, when you first started, that drive and that energy was so passionate, and it was really hard to place it somewhere without becoming sort of overpowering. And
Yeah,
then what you've learned is put that drive and energy in the right places to make things happen, but also take a step back in other places to listen and to develop that thinking. Um, so yeah, so there's a lot around that. So there's a lot around your drive and how you keep that, where you place it, how you use it well. And I think that's a lot of that you've learned over the last couple of months in placement. So that's been absolutely fantastic to see and grow.
oh yeah, for sure. I agree with you on that. Thank you, Laura. I really appreciate it. Yeah, I think I agree on that. I've
Yeah,
learned how to um communicate whenever I need to, depending on what my needs are, what other people would need as well.
yeah.
Make sure that to be supported in either party, either side. Um, for sure. Um, yeah, that's something. It made me really think about it. I had to really deeply like, what did I actually learn? Because I learned so much. Like, how am I supposed to summarize this? Like, I
Yeah,
didn't even really think about this.
for walking in the doors in September being told, oh, here's create your action plan, to now, so much has happened.
Oh yes, 100%. I've been a roller coaster. I'm like, what did I do? Like, there's so many things that's happened so quickly. But yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Okay, so that brings us sort of nicely onto this slide about highlights.
Yeah.
Can you give maybe one or two highlights?
There's one dropping I did. So we're trying to do like access this one school called Andalusia, which is around the corner from it's an Islamic school, and the upper school's all females. And that's a school that Zazi's trying to get into because it's private. And I think at the very end, I got actually emotional in a good way, actually, because I'm never, there's a picture, I don't know if we're allowed to use it, but there's a picture that was taken with all the girls with their hands up in the air and the fists in the air like this at the end of our woman talk taster session. And one girl got emotional, like with happy tears, because she was like, oh my gosh, she almost hugged me because we can't give hugs. I was like, look, by the way, I can't give you a hug. But she's like, um, you don't know how much this means to be as a Muslim young woman, young female, because we don't actually have this opportunity to actually have our voices listened to. And I really appreciate you actually coming in and giving us that time to actually let us speak. And I felt like this is a great opportunity for us to actually talk to this and communicate this to our family. So I really thank you for that. And then she almost wanted to give me a hug and I almost cried in a good way because that's what I wanted. And I think that's my like one of my biggest highlights to like on my placement like ever of
It's,
hearing that like
yeah,
from a young
it's giving a young woman and young women that, as you rightly said, empowering them and giving them a voice to sort of say their rights and their feelings, um, which is quite something quite magical, isn't it?
yeah, for sure, 100%. That's my like biggest highlight because that brought me so much joy and that actually put me in a good mood for the rest. She made my day. Like actually made my day for me.
It's
So
brilliant.
yeah.
Well done. So summary, what have you learnt from the team and of each other?
Sharing knowledge from each other from all the different projects. So all of us have opportunities to work with different projects and independent stuff. And I think when we have our lounge days, when earlier on before when we first started, we all used to be in the same room together. Most of us were like four of us would be in one room, and we would just talk like general knowledge of what we learn or what we know so far from the other teams or what especially relative to one of our co-workers, Gemma, she's part of Free Gem, so she does LGBT plus related things, and I learned things related to the queer community. Mo does zines, and he's talking me about specific zines he's interested in and promoting self-care. And then one Ben does something about NEETs and stuff. So I learned things about schools and people out of education. So it was interesting to share all that knowledge and put it into one related to me and how I can make sure that is relatable. That is something I definitely learned, was sharing knowledge with other projects, one another from all the other projects that my other class colleagues would do. That's something I learned. The essence of laughter and humor. Oh yeah, for sure. um, yeah, I'm very naturally been a jokey, humorous person anyway. Like I never, as a joke, I say to people, don't take life too seriously, guys. Like have fun. Yeah, work, play, and yeah, have fun and play harder. Like later on, I'm kidding, but like you get the essence. You're supposed to have fun in the workplace environment in general. So yeah, I learned the essence of humor from everyone and understanding different humors. It took me a while because sometimes I look like deer in the headlights. 9 times out of 10, I'd be like, what's going on? I don't understand what's going on. But I learned how to be humorous in such professional environments, and making sure it's safe in that type of environment, especially meeting people. Our drop-ins and hubs, how to deal with challenging conversations, um, especially meeting young people and having that sort of boundary. I guess, and making sure that step is not crossed, and making sure I'm not saying anything that could be really offensive or could offend young people when speaking to them, and being trained in how to deal with that. The training has been brilliant in regarding how to actually deal and challenge with challenging conversations, especially from Laura and the rest of the team. And I think I said already, the conversation I've learned from peer reps.
Yeah.
Especially as again, I'm gonna say her name. I'm gonna sing her praises. Gemma, OG Gemma. Oh yeah. She has taught me a lot about, especially the creative drop-ins. So in our hubs, we have creative drop-ins that we do, and she always has. I don't know how. Like she just has a theme. She knows a theme or how it's relative to what's going on, especially mental health related. I think that's great. It's brilliant, and I enjoy learning from her. Like it's like I'm learning. Like I'm going back to school over again. I was like, this is so cool. Like I actually love this. So yeah, that's what I've learned in
Yeah.
general from you.
And so there's so this is one of the of 5 videos, and you're going to hear from the other peer reps, which is the team you're referring to. And as Shanoya said, they base their stuff in the lounge, which is our waiting area. And one of the things I have enjoyed is walking in and seeing you guys sing and add that sort of young person touch to a waiting area, which makes it really welcoming. So yeah, and all peer reps also get involved in the hubs, which we tell you more about at another time. Is there another slide? No, that's the end. Um, is there? Oh, what did I do there? Is there anything else you would like to say? Just to finish this off. That's a lot of information. You've told us what peer reps is. You told us about SASI. You told us about what you've learned and what you want us to take away. Culture what's the word? Culture
Cultural competency. That's the main essence I think is needed. Like from research as well, because I'm doing some research for this, and like drawing data from going all the women talks and all the pop-ups that we do for Zazie related, or just peer membership team. It's just that's the important part. Yeah.
brilliant.
But I don't think there's anything much more to add except from live your best life in this quarantina. Kidding, but it's like I guess if there is an opportunity at this age and this time to actually learn and be a professional in a mental health charity, Off the Record is a place for you to go.
Oh,
That's what I would say, because you will learn. I would say, out of anything, all the jobs I've had, I've learned a lot. Like holistic approaches, the theoretical and methodical approaches to mental health, especially access and support for young people, is brilliant. Of actually having seen those two different sides of the healthcare industry, even though it's in one organization, how they approach things based on their professional backgrounds is cool, and I think it's great. for especially people who are studying a degree that to want to go into the healthcare industry. I think it's great for people to reach out and know and learn, so they know when they go into that in the future, they can see that. I think it's great.
Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you. And you've been absolutely a pleasure and to work with, and very insightful, and I've learned a lot. So for now, let's wave goodbye to everybody.
Bye guys, have a good day.
Bye.
Bye.